Good morning, fourth grade. We're going to continue reading in our text, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, and we'll be focusing on chapter 24 today. But before we get started reading, we have a quick write. It says, why do people tell stories? Why does Min Lee's family tell stories? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the vocabulary. Our focus question says, what purpose do the stories embedded in the novel serve the reader? What do these embedded stories reveal about the author's view of storytelling? So we're going to focus on why the author chose to tell us stories within this larger story. Our vocabulary words today are destiny. Your destiny refers to those events that happen to you in your future. So if you're fulfilling your destiny, you're fulfilling what you're supposed to do. And so destiny, you could draw a line to this picture. This woman is trying to determine the other person's destiny by looking into their hand. The second word is insecure, and that's someone who's not confident or anxious. And this girl is insecure, and we can tell because she's covering up her face. She's not confident. And then the last one is half-hearted. That's when you do something without enthusiasm or excitement. And so you can draw a line to this picture of the person who's like, yay, hooray, and he's kind of saying it half-heartedly. You can tell because his eyes are kind of rolling in the back of his head. All right, turn the page, and we're on page 143 in our text, and we're going to use our CSPS strategy. So I'm at outside the city. And so remember, Min Lee went into the city to find the king and get the borrowed line, and Dragon is waiting outside the city. So chapter 24 focuses on Dragon and what he's been doing while Min Lee has been in the city. Outside the city, Dragon waited. Even after Min Lee disappeared, the dragon still watched from the trees. He felt odd when she had passed the old stone lions and the doors that closed behind her. He realized that he had never had a friend before, and what a nice feeling it was to have one. And perhaps that is why the second night, when the sky darkened and the moon rose, Dragon crept out from the shadows of the trees and approached the closed sleeping city. We'll stop right there because our author has given us information about Dragon. And we know that Dragon's waiting for Min Lee, and he realizes that he misses her. Make sure you have this quote underlined. And in box 1, for the character, we would write, Dragon is waiting for Min Lee outside the city, but he is lonely because he misses Min Lee's friendship. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And we could write down this quote, the last sentence of the first paragraph. He realized that he had never had a friend before, and what a nice feeling it was to have one. Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready for the setting. And if we go back on this page, the text tells us that Dragon is outside the city, and we know that it's at night. And he's creeping to the edge of the city. And so in box 2, we would write Dragon is outside the city at night by the stone wall. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. All right, and we would write down this quote right here that says, Dragon crept out of the shadows of the trees and approached the closed sleeping city. Press pause to write down your quote and play when you're ready to keep reading. Let's turn the page. While he wouldn't admit it, Dragon thought, Yeah, this extra page got in there. While he wouldn't admit it, Dragon thought just standing by the walled city might make him feel just a bit less lonely. The silver moon cast a frosted glow upon the rough stone wall and the guardian lion statues. Dragon stared at them as he approached the gate. Their stocky, heavily built bodies seemed to weigh down the stone platforms they sat upon, and the darkness of the night made their stiff, curly manes look like rows of carved blossoms. One of the lions held a round ball underneath his forearm. The other held down a lion cub that seemed to be grinning at him. In fact, all the lions seemed to be grinning at him as if he were a secret joke they were watching. "Am I so funny?" Dragon asked as he passed them. "Yes!" burst out the small lion cub, wriggling free of his mother's paw. "You're very funny." As Dragon jumped back in surprise, the lion cub laughed out loud, obviously highly amused at the dragon's shock. But with his laugh, both adult lions shook themselves from their platforms. And we'll stop right there because we have Dragon's problem. And in box 3 we would write, Dragon is lonely, and one of the lions in the stone wall begins to laugh at him. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And we would write down this quote on page 144. "In fact, all the lions seemed to be grinning at him as if he were a secret joke they were watching." Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. "Yow, yow, meow," the mother lion scolded. "Don't laugh at the lost dragon. Besides, you know the rules, no moving in the presence of others." "But it's a dragon," the cub said, "not a people. He doesn't count for the rules, does he? Besides, he's funny. Big dragon trying to tiptoe like a mouse." "Yow, meow," a deep voice of the other lion boomed in the air. The cub gave a half-hearted look of shame and was immediately quiet and still. By this time, Dragon had found his voice. "You're alive, then?" he said. "Of course we are," the male lion said, scrutinizing the dragon with interested eyes. "Everything's alive. The ground you're walking on, the bark of those trees. We were all always alive, even before we were lions and were just raw stone. However, carving us did give us a bit more personality." "You're a fairly young dragon, aren't you?" the female lion said kindly. "You seem only 100 or 150 years old. Don't worry, you'll learn soon enough." 100? the lion cub said. "I'm much older than you. I'm 868. "And you still have not attained wisdom," the father lion told him. "Don't tease the young one." "Well, what are you doing here?" the cub asked, not unkindly. "Dragons don't come down to earth very much. Are you lost?" Though unusual, the lions weren't unfriendly, so Dragon settled down and told them the whole story. Being born, living in the forest, meeting Minli, and now their travels to find the borrowed line and the old man of the moon. The lions didn't interrupt once, though the cub did snicker from time to time. "You belong to Magistrate Tiger?" the cub said when Dragon had finished. "That means you're the terrible dragon. You're the one that destroyed the king's father's palace. What a lot of trouble you caused." Dragon looked at the older lions questioningly. "About 100 years ago," the female lion said, "the king's father fled his home village, and a dragon had destroyed his palace, and his people cast him out, saying he was bad luck. He came here intending to make his home with his son and to live off his son's wealth and power as the king of the city of bright moonlight. They were bad times here for the city, and the king's father and the officials he brought with him were corrupt and greedy. We were very concerned." All right, so we'll stop right there because we have our solution. Even though Dragon was lonely and the cub laughed at him, Dragon was able to settle down and talk to the lions, and now he's not as lonely. And so in box 4, we would write, Dragon realized that the stone lions are nice, and he begins to talk to them about his life story and journey. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And in the second part of box 4, we will write this quote at the top of page 146. Though unusual, the lions were unfriendly, so Dragon settled down and told them the whole story. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the paragraph. And for the paragraph, it says, describe the value of the borrowed lines to the guardians of the city. And so we actually haven't gotten to that part in the story. So you could rewrite the paragraph and say, describe the challenge that Dragon faced and how he responded to his challenge. Okay, and so when you're thinking about Dragon's challenge, that would be the problem that he faced, and then his response is how he solved the problem.